Welcome to the Hollywood Gatekeepers YouTube channel. Today we are going to share a clip from an interview that I did with Mr. Paul Haggis, the iconic screenwriter who is the only person to hold the honor of winning back-to-back Oscars for his screenplays Million Dollar Baby and Crash. I think you're really going to enjoy this.
Well, hello there. It's nice to see you. I'm Carolyn Carpenter. Nice to see you. And Douglas Shaner, he's in the chat, and he's our partner. And we do this together. We're screen readers. Can't thank you enough. We're so excited. We're really excited. We've been looking forward to this for a long time. We actually watched Crash a couple weeks ago as a movie night. We are teaching people how to be readers that really support producers, really that support writers. We feel that a lot of people learn as they go when they're being a reader, and as writers, we want people to really, understand what is happening with that script and not be practicing as an intern on a script. So we have a group of people that they are really focused on how to be really good readers, how to support producers, and how to be champions for writers. So we do a movie night. We're spread all over the country, and we all got together online and watched Crash together. And then it's just like so serendipitous that you agreed to do this. And I can't thank you enough. We're really excited. So we won't take too much of your time. We kind of got together and put questions together. I asked them what they wanted to know, and for you, probably pretty similar questions that I'm sure that a lot of people ask you. So basically, we just wanted to know, I know you're Canadian, so how is it different in Canada, and what gave you the bug to get started with this whole crazy career?
I was writing a lot of very bad plays in Canada as a young man, and when I say bad, they were like atrociously bad. And got a couple of produced, and I directed them, and I was even worse as a director than I was as a writer. So I was working with my dad in construction. I'd made it through high school. I'd gone to 1 year of art school, and at the local art school there, studied photography. Went off to England thinking I'd be a fashion photographer because I was over-influenced by Blow Up. That failed pretty quickly. I came back, went to community college for a year to study cinematography. That was really a worthless course. And I started writing. I kept going back to writing. And then I was working with my dad, and I was getting around 22 years old. And one day we were driving down the street, and he said, construction, you're no damn good at it, are you? I went, no. He said, you should go to Hollywood. You should follow your dream. I'll give you a little bit of money, support you. He's giving me $100 a week, which is what he was paying me there for a year, and see if he can make it. So I went home and proposed to my girlfriend, and we got married and packed up the truck and moved here. And I was a snowback. I was illegal, so I couldn't work except for under the table. But my wife had luckily rights to American citizenship. We found out because her dad had served with the American Army, even though he was Canadian. And so it took me a few years to get my legal status. In the meantime, I worked as a furniture mover and various other things for $5 an hour. I went home and wrote every night. And so I'd work for 8-10 hours a day, moving pianos up 3 flights of stairs. And then I'd come home and write. And I eventually, I took a bunch of classes to various places. And it took me about 4 years to sell my first television script. And was lucky enough to keep writing after that.
Yeah, and you wrote, that's spectacular, first of all. I mean, that a parent would do that, which is usually we're not encouraging their children. So, yeah, it was a great dad. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so when you started in television, you worked in television for quite a while, right?
100 years in network television. And I kept failing my way upwards. The great shows I did wouldn't last more than a week. I did a show called Easy Streets that I just loved. It didn't last more than a week, and the bad ones I did, like I did a 2-week rewrite on a pilot called Walker, Texas Ranger, and that even though I only put 2 weeks into it, it lasted 10 years. So the lesson was, the less I have to do with a TV series, the more successful it is.
Well, that's good to know. That's awesome. So are you doing any TV now? Would you go back to
yeah, I'm developing something right now. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. And so, like we said, Crash was one of the was the movie that we watched. And so a lot of people had questions about that. And we know that Million Dollar Baby, I mean, you hold that honor as being the only person really to do back-to-back like that. Awesome. Congratulations on that. Super huge accomplishment. And so when you were doing this, can you kind of walk us through kind of how that process went with the 2 movies?
Sure. I've been
use an outline?
Yeah, I've been fired from my job as running my own television show on CBS. I got in an argument with the lead actor, and they chose the actor over me, and so they paid me off for the year. So I sat in my office, and I found this story um, in a book of short stories called Rope Burns. I found the story $1 Million Baby, and I decided I wanted to option the rights. Another producer had already been negotiating, so we paired up and we bought the rights together. And then I wrote the script on spec and gave it to all my producer friends to read and send around. And they'd said, really, really good script, Paul. It will never sell. And I mean, it was about girl boxing and euthanasia. I mean, who wants this movie? Nobody. So I didn't know what else to do, didn't want to go back to television. And so my wife at the time said, you know that story you developed for television? You should write that as a movie, you'll win an Oscar. I went, what are you talking about? And that was this story that I tried to sell as a TV series, and no one wanted it. And it was Crash. And so I wrote that, and I had a 25-page outline. And I called my friend Bobby Moresco and said, who'd help me on $1 Million Baby? And I said, what do you think? And he said, oh, it's really good. It's not a movie. I said, I think it is. And so we sat and we wrote the first draft based on my outline. We wrote it in a couple of weeks, did a reading, realized where we'd gone wrong. And 2 weeks later, we wrote another draft, and that was it. It was wrote so quickly, that one, because I'd done a year of research already on it and interviewed a lot of people in Los Angeles and elsewhere, and done a lot of reading about sort of what I felt was the odd nature of Los Angeles and how disconnected we are from everybody else and how easily we judge people. And so I gave it to my producer friends, and they said, wow, really good script, Paul. It'll never sell. And so I took those out with my help of Mark Harris, who had been my agent, and Larry Bexey, who was my agent at the time. We took the two of them out for 4 years. We got turned down by every studio. We got turned down by every production company, and not just in America, in several countries, Canada and someplace else. And finally, I got a little bit of money to make Crash. Bob Yari and Kathy Schulman had a little company, and they said, can you do it for, I don't know, $5 million or something? And I said, yeah, I can do it. So I set up to do that, and there was a long process of casting because people didn't know who I was. And actors, and I got Don Cheadle first, and he became on as a producer, and he championed it, and really helped me get the cast together. But it took about a year. And then I started shooting that, and then I got the money to do $1 Million Baby, which I was going to direct. And I had Hillary, and I had Morgan, and we were looking for someone to play Frankie. And then my producing partner said, what about Clint Eastwood? I said, well, he'd be great, but he's going to want to direct. He said, no. So he gave him the script. I don't think he'd even told him there was a director attached. So Clint's response was, great script, can I direct? And I said, let him find his own script. And so, and my producing partners and agents and everyone descended on me and said, Paul. If Clint Eastwood directs your script, it'll make your career. And my wife, who's now my ex-wife, but still my best friend and gives me the best advice, said, Paul, don't be greedy. You're already shooting Crash, which was a tiny little independent film. Let him do it. I went, well, and I remember Unforgiven is one of my favorite films of all time. So I said, well, he'll do a great job. So great. So I said, I'll just write and produce. And he took my script and started shooting it and got it done and out before I even got Crash to the.
Okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you talk about readers. I mean, it's very difficult to do films, to write films like those. I decided to write them just because I was tired of writing and pitching all the movies that everybody wanted or said they wanted.
Yeah,
and no one knew they were selling.
Yeah.
And so I decided to do something that I was passionate about, both those I was passionate about, and not worry about that the structure made no sense in Crash, and not worry that I was dealing with stereotypes and that I was going to turn on their head. Or with $1 Million Baby, not worry that the subject was one that no one would be interested in. That's what everyone said. Just not worry about it. Just do it. you're passionate about. And we got a lot of very, very bad coverage on both of those. Coming back, and people just said no. A couple of people, liked them, but just didn't think they were commercial. A lot of people liked them, didn't think they were commercial. And I didn't care. And so I think commercial is often, if you tell a good story and you tell it with passion and some craft, it can become commercial, because both those were huge commercial hits. So there is no way to know what's commercial and what's not. I have done films that I thought were commercial and it turned out not to make a penny. Like Next 3 Days, which I thought was a very commercial concept, but people didn't happen to like Russell Crowe at that moment, so nobody went to the theaters. And it opened opposite Harry Potter, and so no one was anyway for the month. So you can never tell what's commercial often. You just tell if it's a good story, well told.
Is he amazing or what? He was so generous with his interviews. So be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so that you can get notified every time we have a new video, as we share more excerpts from that interview with Paul Haggis, as well as other interviews that we've done with other experts, producers, writers, directors, all kinds of people in the Hollywood film industry. And if you would like to know more about being a reader, you can join me for a masterclass where I cover all the nuances of being a reader in the Hollywood film industry. And you can do that by going to HollywoodGatekeepers.com/free masterclass. And there we will cover all the details about being a reader.